Hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the More Than the Numbers podcast. This is a show where we'll dive into the stories of people overcoming financial insecurity, showing the different paths that people take to become wealthy, and overall just how to live a more purposeful life. So, if you enjoyed listening to the show, please show some support, give us a 5-star review, and leave a comment of your favorite part of the pod. Also, please share it to anyone that you know that feels stuck and that needs some uplifting or needs some help to get their finances in order. We're really just trying to help as many people as we can with these stories. God bless all of you, and yeah, just enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. I got a special treat for you guys on episode 2 of the More Than the Numbers pod. Made it all the way through episode 1 of the trilogy, right? So we got three episodes in this series. I'm sure you've heard it. The first one, which is the intro. Second one here is Scarcity Mindset and Generational Poverty. And the third one will be on the house hack. So, gosh, I'm really excited, guys. And I'm thankful, super thankful that I'm here today and I'm able to record this with good health. It's we're getting towards the end of January here, and moving closer and closer to launch date, and we've just had tons of anticipation. Me and Kevin, my creative director, who is doing all the cool edits on the video side and the Instagram. We've been working real hard and trying to learn on the fly to get this thing up and running. But it's been real fun. If you guys want to create a podcast, I would encourage you to do it. It is a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of work. A lot of work that I didn't anticipate going into this. You would just think that you can just make a podcast and it's really easy, but no, there's a lot of things that go into it. So, again, excited. Let's just dive in. So, what's this episode all about? It's going to be about scarcity mindset and generational poverty. So yeah, big terms, and they have a lot of meaning. Especially in my life. When I first learned of these terms, I was going through my own self-discovery of myself in college, when I was trying to learn about personal finance and investing and real estate. In that learning about money, you start learning about other things, and this was kind of like a mini therapy for me that gave me a lot of context on why I had the mentality I had growing up, not having money, and the effects that it was having, in everything that I was doing in college, and what my future goals were. All of these were kind of shaped and formed from these two kinds of concepts. So I'm really excited to see if you guys can resonate with any of it. Please, message me or make comments on it if they do, just because it informs us of if these topics are relevant to our audience. But I want to shout out real quick to Maria Melchor, or First Gen Living on Instagram. She's the one who really dove deep on these concepts on her TikToks and Instagram videos, kind of describing what the terms were and describing it. Because I think a lot of minorities or a lot of first generation Americans have had to deal with these kinds of, I guess you can call them traumas, and had to overcome these kind of adversities. So shout out to her for making it more of a public concept. But just to recap kind of on my upbringing, if you didn't already listen to the first episode. So I grew up, not much money. Grew up in the garage of a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, which was my grandpa's, my abuelito. He bought that house in the 1980s or 1990s, I think, coming over from Chihuahua, Mexico. He brought, my aunts and uncles, who of course were his kids, my abuelita, and we all lived in that house. So I had my 2 younger brothers and my parents. We lived in the garage. So just think of it like a mini studio where we had our bunk beds We had the fridge. We had a little office space to do homework, TV, couch. So, maybe I can get a picture I could pull up on YouTube here so you guys can get an idea. But yeah, we didn't have money. So, my parents, they were paycheck to paycheck growing up. We had a lot of financial issues with even almost getting the house foreclosed on. We had to go through bankruptcy, and I didn't really understand it growing up. They did a great job of just keeping it a positive vibe for us. But there was little things here and there that I didn't really understand or have full context on, especially when comparing my situation to my peers, whether they had, or when my friends were going on vacations or having, nice items like clothes, shoes, things like that, nice pants. And I didn't really have that. I kind of always asked my parents of why, why didn't I have those things growing up? And they really instilled in me that those material items aren't really of importance. It's really about having love and having God and having good relationships. So that's kind of the nucleus or the root of what I had growing up. But they never really taught about they never really taught about the idea of money or how to budget, have an allowance, and I think that's just something that a lot of immigrants and a lot of like I said, first generation people have had, because there's no formal education on it with schooling. So that's kind of what led us into not really having much money at the time. So growing up, I'll fast forward a little bit into my college years when I was really starting to learn about money, about different concepts in investing, credit score, budgeting. I came across the topic of building generational wealth and what the importance of having something to pass down to your kids and create financial freedom for yourself and for your future generations. So that concept was real interesting to me, and it really resonated. And I started, doing even deeper dives on learning about these different concepts. And something that really stuck through with me was the idea of that scarcity mindset. So I'll give you a quick little definition of what a scarcity mindset is, because it's a little confusing if you haven't already heard that term, because we're going to be bringing it up a whole lot during this podcast. But what a scarcity mindset is, let me just pull up the definition here. So what that is, it's the feeling of not having enough, right? So the feeling of not having enough, whether that can be time, whether that can be money, relationship. So, kind of having a void of, you always feel like you don't have enough of these things or one of these things. And it's a real interesting concept that would seep into, a lot of different areas into my life. Like I used to limit myself with, being able to purchase certain things. Like because I would always look at the price tag and see, oh, is that worth it to me? Is it not? Without even really giving those objects that I wanted to purchase extra thought about, how can I make it possible to one day purchase this nice jacket, or how can I make it possible for one day to, purchase a home or go into actually the dream career that I would have wanted. Like for example, into going into real estate, because at the time I was just wanting to do, physical therapy because it was a more secure profession. But I didn't allow myself really to dream bigger, because I had those self-imposed limitations on myself. I didn't give myself the permission to, think about a different future. Didn't really think about how I can overcome different issues or solutions to different problems, until, a pretty crazy story that forever changed the perspective on scarcity mindset and really made me realize that life can give you, a lot more than what you think is even possible. And so I'll go into the story a little bit. So I was at Cal State Fullerton, and I was walking through the halls and I saw this advertisement for a study abroad trip in Greece. And, I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, cause I'm a big sports fan. I've seen Hercules back in the day. So, the idea of Greece and going to, the Greek gods and going to see Athens was like something pretty interesting. And coming from uh, a family where we really didn't go on vacations, I had never been on an airplane before. It seemed like a cool, really, really cool idea. And it's like, you also get classes that are done, or units you can complete while on this trip. So, and I was reading that it only had 30 spots, 30 applicants or 30 students that can go on the trip. And I thought to myself, like, I'm probably not able to get in, or let alone pay for this. So there's just, no way that can even be possible. And so, yeah, that was just one of the limiting beliefs that I had. So, but one day, I don't know why, I showed my mom it. I'm like, look, like there's this like Greece trip that's like pretty cool. It would be a cool idea to go. Like, you think it would be possible? And she's like, yeah, like, I mean, we can try to make this work. Just apply and see what happens. And yeah, reluctantly, I followed the instructions. I made the application. I wrote out a nice, I forget what it was, like a paragraph, or no, actually it was like an essay about who you are and why you deserve to go on the trip, or what it would mean to you. And so I just kind of just wrote about my story of, where I came from, the money situation that I had. And yeah, I just hope for the best. And, soon enough, they got back to me and they let me know that I actually got accepted to go on the trip. And then I was actually one of the recipients of the scholarship. So, I got about half of it paid for through that scholarship. And yeah, I just had no idea that I would even be able to go on this. My brain couldn't really comprehend that this was an even possible thing. And yeah, once I got that letter of acceptance, and I was just pumped and I was amped for this trip. And it literally, getting into this program, again, I feel like it was like that day of getting that acceptance, I was like, you know what, I have a newfound love for life. Like, if they're letting this like poor Mexican guy get into this, and let him go fly into Greece and go to Italy and get a scholarship to pay for half of it, I could do anything. I could do anything in life. So on that trip, I made the most of it. Even though I didn't really know of anyone on that trip, I tried to make, as many friends as I could. I went and experienced so many things. I went to go explore on my own, walking through Athens, going to, the different bars and clubs, and just trying to make friends with the Greek people out there, and some of the students that were on the trip. And I just feel like because I had this carefree spirit, I and just happiness and positivity, that I was living living out kind of like a dream scenario. And yeah, I had this newfound confidence, really. I even got a tattoo, my first tattoo out there, a spontaneous owl that I've got. I could show you guys here, and it's a little basic thing. But yeah, I did some crazy stuff. I did that, and we stayed out really late at the bars and clubs, and just had such a blast. And I even had the confidence to go and talk to a girl that I thought was really pretty at the time. And I think if I was back home, I probably wouldn't have approached her. But because Grease Kenny was just living it out there, and I wasn't thinking of this scarcity mindset. I was just thinking with, an abundance, with just having fun, that I was able to talk to this girl pretty comfortably. And I started getting, some feelings with her. And yeah, one thing led to another. And a couple years later, she ended up being my fiance. So yes, I've been with Gabby, my fiance. We were together for about 6 years from that trip. And yeah, now we're together and building a brand new life. And all of this is really to say that, because, if I had listened to my scarcity mindset at the time when I saw that ad there at Cal State Fullerton for that Greece trip, and had I just listened to my normal thinking of, it's not possible because I don't have the money, and I can't do it. I'm a poor kid, and there's no, my family doesn't go on trips. Had I listened to that and not gone up to my mom and just asked her about it to see if it was even a possible thing, who knows? Not have found, my best friend, the love of my life. So, and it just made me think like, wow, like life really can give you something much, much bigger than what you can anticipate and what you can even think about. So all you really have to do is, go through the adversity that's in front of you, actually approach, the issues that you're currently going through, and think creatively of how can it be possible? How would it be possible for me to go to Greece? How would it be possible for me to pay for it? And we creatively thought about that GoFundMe, and didn't listen to that scarcity mindset, and look what happened. So that forever changed me, and I think I've been really riding on that high ever since, because I've applied it in a lot more other places in my life, like with my career. I, instead of staying in the physical therapy realm, I ended up going into real estate and becoming a loan officer, and sticking through that, and then eventually leading it to helping me purchase my home, which is insane. Being able to accomplish the dream of purchasing my home was something that was a clear indication that that life just has bigger things for you. Life and God and all of this has much bigger things than what you anticipate if you let yourself dream and let yourself think bigger. So, think about stuff in your own case. Like, what are the dreams that you're suppressing? What are that doesn't seem possible right now? To kind of look past the day to day, the week to week, the month to month. What do you really value and what do you want in your life? If you wanted to become, start that YouTube channel, if you wanted to start a business, if you wanted to be a coach, speak at different events, inch your way, try to figure out would it be possible to do it, because you never know what life can give you, and because usually it's a lot better than what you anticipate. But all it is to let yourself, think and dream it, and take the first steps to it. But yeah, this thing of scarcity mindset is so important, because, even though I said I've worked through it and it's helped me get to a lot of places, it's still something I overcome, on a day-to-day basis. I still keep on naturally just thinking small, thinking that I don't deserve things. And all it really takes is some awareness at times. This was the first step for me in trying to conquer my battles with scarcity mindset. So I started becoming aware of, if I valued the gym, let's say, but I started thinking that I didn't have enough money to go to the gym, so maybe I shouldn't work out. That is an example of that, because I could, figure out how can I make it possible for me to afford the gym? Is it that I could maybe do Uber or Lyft, and then I could work, or work an extra shift where I can pay for the gym and actually utilize the benefits of working out? If the gym is a something of value for myself, for example, if you feel like you need to go to therapy, but you've been pushing it aside because you don't have enough money for it, try to figure out a way to make it affordable, or make it something that you can pay for, where you can take on an extra shift, or maybe tell your friends or family about it, and try to brainstorm a way where it can be possible. Because if let's say for the gym, where it starts getting you into shape, you become a new person after that, and you start having new thoughts. Same thing with therapy. You're since you begin working on yourself, you begin working on other aspects of your life. So, those little changes, those little things can spark up a lot more in your life if you just take the first step at those. So, I started applying that to a lot of the things in my life. And a cool little exercise that I still do, almost every single day, really. I should probably be doing it more often, is just not thinking about the current issues or problems that I have right now, to just change my frame of thinking. So just and I'll just run through this mental exercise, with you guys here. So I tell myself, what if I had all the money in the world? What if I had all the money in the world? What if I had all the love in the world? What if I had, no issues? What would I want to do with my life, right? And for me personally, if I had all of those things, had all of those things figured out, and I had no worries, let's say, about money and about relationships, what my natural aspect of doing is helping people. I would just help others, right? And that's how I would spend my life, or I would spend it, doing the things that I love doing, like maybe playing basketball. I would go to more Laker games, go to more Dodger games, spend time with my loved ones. So whether it's with my fiance, with my family, my friends, go on trips, travel, those are the true things in my life that I like, that I want to do, whether or not I have issues or not. I just love and value those aspects. And so that's why I'm trying to design my life to do those things. So I plan to make trips, to go out on vacations with my friends, to go on dates, to travel with my fiance, to spend time with my family, and to help. This podcast really is my way of trying to help better society. Try to and same thing with my nonprofit, try to help the underserved communities. So I'm trying to not look at things with a dollar amount, let's say, even though those things do, you want to take into account of it, but in big picture, I'm trying to build my life so that I can just live by the true values that I have, and not doing things out of scarcity mindset, that I'm just choosing this job because I need money, or choosing this thing because I need to get the status. So those are just quick little tips, so just imagine yourself with having all the money in the world, having all the love in the world. What would you spend your time doing, and what would you want to go for? And, if you can't do those things, can't, accomplish your dream today or tomorrow, make a plan, make it a feasible thing. If you want, like I was saying before, if you want to go into a different profession, start mapping out how it can be possible. If you want to buy a house one day, start learning about the information of how it can be possible. So a lot of these are just key things. I think that every single person, can really hack their own life by taking these things into consideration, and trying to clean up, all of the things that came from this scarcity mindset, right? So, and how did we start developing this thing of scarcity mindset, right? And that's what got me thinking further about the other term that we, originally talked about in the beginning of this podcast, which is about generational poverty. But yeah, so, if you're especially coming from a poor family, or, a family of immigrants where they don't know of money, and you're surrounded by people who, they mean the best for you, but sometimes they just don't know of, exactly what the future that you're trying to build. They're coming from a situation of generational poverty, right? So for example, right, these are some of the examples that I had, growing up with, right? I would, we're driving in the car after I get out of school, and then I ask my parents, like, hey, look, there's an In-N-Out. Can we go get In-N-Out? And they'd be like, no, you can't have In-N-Out. We have food at home. And I'm like, dang, like, what the heck? Like, I know we have food at home, but I would like to have In-N-Out sometimes, or we'd go to the store, the toy store, and I'm like, hey, can I get these toys? Like, no, you can't. You already have toys at home, or, starting to grow up a little bit more. When I wanted to go play, or wanted to go on my Catalina Island trip in middle school, right? I would say, hey, can I go on this Catalina Island trip? It costs, whatever amount, like $300, $400. Maybe it's even more than that. And, my parents would say, no, like, you got to either choose Catalina Island, or we're going to sign you up for Little League. And for me, I was like, what the heck? Like, why can't I do both? I want to play baseball and I want to go to Catalina Island. But, we had to choose one of those because we didn't have the money to do that. And as a kid, I never really understood why we couldn't afford it. And maybe my parents did that, they were able to game plan it, but I never really saw how we can game plan of accomplishing everything, right? Or really getting that extra level of understanding of how do we make these things possible. And I think that those actions, they actually start, creating this kind of habitual thinking in your head when you get older, right? Of, instead of choosing Catalina Island and Little League, for example, you're choosing between, oh, should I go on this vacation, or should I go and purchase my gym membership? You know, like we limit ourselves to just choosing one or the other, instead of trying to figure out a way where we can make both work if those are the values that we have. So, and give ourselves the permission to think that it's okay to do both of those. But when you keep on just telling yourself no, that you can't do it, and not giving yourself the extra reason or thinking of why, you can start reframing that all in your head all the time of not allowing you to think bigger than your current situation. So, and I can't blame my parents either. Like, that's just the way that they grew up. We literally didn't have extra money. I wouldn't want them to take out loans for me to go to Catalina Island or Little League. That would have been bad. But I think a better concept would have been just to think a little bit further about how we can get these things done if it wasn't this time around, and having that frame of thought of how can we do it, instead of just saying no, it's not possible, really can make that extra difference in your life to build it to where you want to take it. But yeah, so that kind of thinking of the scarcity mindset, and where that thinking came from, made me think of my parents, and maybe think of my grandparents about where their lives were coming from with this idea of generational poverty, because they just came from generations of never having money. So they've always had that kind of thinking embedded and ingrained in their head. So, they didn't really know of anything different, right? So I started thinking, right, how would my situation be different if I grew up in a situation where I came from generational wealth? And this idea and this concept came to life when I actually moved to Newport Beach, California, when I lived at an apartment there for a year. If you guys have ever been to Newport Beach, it is one of the most beautiful places on, I think, maybe in the planet. I don't know, at least in the United States, where there's a lot of money that comes from Newport Beach, and it's one of the most perfect climate areas, where the weather is literally perfect. Even all of the stores are very upscale. The place is very clean. There's no homeless people at all. So it's just I would encourage you all to just venture it, go see it. I lived there for a year, and I used to just get so much inspiration just from walking around in the neighborhood and having clean parks. Like, it's so different from, I'm not saying the place where I grew up was the hood, but I'm not saying it also wasn't the hood. So, but yeah, I just started thinking, like, what if Kenny grew up in a Newport Beach home with my parents? If we came from money, if they were, had owned this successful business, and I had my whole life mapped out for me, right? What kind of advantages would I be born to? What kind of access would I have to better schools? What kind of successful people would I have around me that would lead me to do, would tell me what to do and what not to do, right? Would I have to work during college, or would I just be able to go at some crazy internship, or be under the tutelage, or be an apprentice to some CEO, where I could learn how to really, own my real estate firm or bank? Like, what bigger things could I make with that, right? So I started thinking about the advantages of that, of generational wealth, and yeah, I just like this thought, there's just such an advantage to growing up with that situation. I'm not saying that there's not other parts, like, obviously you need to have love in your family as well. You need to have, good people around you too. So money's just not the only thing. But I started to think, like, what if we did come from money and we didn't have to think about, getting out of that bad situation of being in debt and being in and living in a cramped situation with we had with the garage, right? So if I had grown up in that kind of environment, maybe I would go to a private school that would allow me to get the opportunity for networking and build connections. If my parents both had gone to, great universities and had connections with these Ivy League schools, then how easy would it be for me to get into the best university, to study the actual topic that I wanted to and not worry about the student loans or tuition? If I didn't have to work during college, then how much more available time would I have to work on my studies, get perfect grades, to maybe learn other languages during that time? Now, I know you still got to put in the work for all these things, but having the access to these top programs, these best resources, they really can put you above the rest and really give you the top tier lifestyle, right? Paints the picture of that, that perspective of how different it is if you're, coming from a place of not having money, not having the resources, not having the opportunities, of coming from either a poor upbringing or even lower middle class or even middle class. Honestly, it's not easy. It's a big adversity that we have to do to jump and get the same kind of opportunities that one just gets granted with coming from a lot of money or coming from a place where money's not an issue. So, give yourself credit. Give yourself credit for each little accomplishment that you make, whether it's even graduating high school, getting your first job, building your credit score up, getting a certification. So every one of those little accomplishments mean a whole lot because they spring forward. There's a lot that you had to go through to get to that area. And especially if you're not coming from that place of money. So pat yourself on the back sometimes, give yourself some credit, because it's not easy. It's only getting tougher with this whole economic situation. But it really, really paints the picture of, the differences between coming from generational wealth and generational poverty. So just some lasting thoughts on the whole thing of scarcity mindset and generational poverty and generational wealth. I know we kind of I kind of ranted on a couple different things, gave some stories, but just to sum everything up, right? Just to give my last thoughts. We all start at different areas in our life, and whatever spot that you're in, whether you do have money, whether you don't have money, whether you graduated, whether you didn't, just take some time, really go get a sheet of paper out, write down the things that you love doing in your life, or what your hobbies are, what your passions are, what you would spend your time doing if you already had all the money in the world, to figure out truly how you want to live your life. And then figure out whether, if you can make a career out of it. That famous quote that they say, if you, dang it, what was that famous quote? Okay. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So, sorry, it took me a while to come up with that, but yeah, if you can make a career or make some kind of way that you can generate income from something that you like doing, for my dream, it would be to make an income from this podcast. I make an income from helping people through the nonprofit, make a living by helping people through through refinances and purchases with my loan officer job. I love all those things, and if I can make a whole life out of it, that's, I don't have to, I'm not working. It's just things I would be doing regardless. So maybe apply that for your own life if you can in any way. And I hope I didn't come off too much as that I'm like a perfect person or a perfect success, because I'm not at all. I'm just telling you of the different adversities that I've overcome over my years, and the things that I would have liked to hear, going back into when I was 18 years old. I would have loved to get some kind of advice that, you don't need to have it all figured out. Just, go towards the thing that keeps itching at you to keep going. And, little by little, the path opens up. and life ends up better than what you expect, you know? So all in all, forgive yourself and learn who you are and go towards that thing that calls you. So on that note, guys, episode 2 is in the books. I hope you enjoyed it and like this style of solo pod. There's only going to be one more solo pod until we have a ton of interviews. So, if you don't like it, well, there's only one more episode until these interviews. And if you do, let me know and I could start making more about some different stories. I have a lot of personal stories that I can go into. So this is just a trial to see if this is something that resonates with people. So More Than the Numbers podcast, guys, 5-star review, like this, spread it to people who are feeling stuck, that need help. We really try to help, any people that we can with this. So yeah, again, thank you guys for listening and enjoy the rest of your week.